Hey Merfolk fans, I'm Joe. Thanks very much for joining me today. If you'd like to support my channel, please check the link above to my Patreon page. I'm here with a replay of the 4th round of a Modern Friendly League. So far sitting at 2-1, beat Grisholbrand and Affinity, amazingly, and then lost to Jeskai Control running Jace the Mind Sculptor. I won the die roll this time, so I'm going to be on the play, and this is a pretty nice hand. Opponent went down to 6. Let's see what they did with their scry. They went to the bottom of their library. So I'm going to open up with Mutavault into AEther Vial here. That'll let me attack with Mutavault next turn, unless I draw something like a Silvergill or Spreading Seas. Celestial Colonnade, my least favorite matchup again. I really dislike these blue-white control decks because the matches can tend to take so long. Not because we have a terrible matchup, just because it's really annoying. I drew a Cavern of Souls, which is nice in the matchup, but I think I'm going to play my island here and just attack with Mutavault. Opponent goes down to 18, and for their turn, they'll crack a Scalding Tarn, get a Mountain, and a Search for Azcanta. So we like them tapping out on turn 2, so it gives us the green light to start attacking. Okay, so that's pretty much the last land that we want to draw, and I've said this before in previous matches, but you want to sandbag Cavern of Souls as long as possible. It's possible the opponent might have a choice of playing something like a Search for Azcanta versus leaving up Counter Magic. And if they choose to leave up Counter Magic and then we slam Cavern of Souls, it can be a big blowout against the control opponent. So I'm just going to play my island for now. I'm going to attack with Mutavault. I'm going to bring in a Lord now because I have Spell Pierce up, and we want to push as much damage as we can in these early turns. One's going to look at their top deck and put a Serum Visions into the graveyard. They have a path and haven't played a land yet, so I get to try to protect the Lord on the table. Opponent follows up with a Scalding Tarn. That was pretty silly sequencing on their part. Basic Island into Serum Visions. I guess we should check what they did with the Serum Visions. And they went top-bottom, so kind of average. Leaving up red mana. I feel like if they had the Bolt, they would use it because they just got Spell Pierced and they don't want to let me draw into more counter magic. Silvergill Adept is a nice draw, but we don't have to play it out just yet. Let's get in with these two guys and see if we can connect for 5 points of damage. Okay, we did. So now I can play this Cavern, and since the Silvergill replaces itself, I'll go ahead and commit it to the board, revealing one of these Harbingers. Hopefully I'll just draw into another Merfolk. And an Island Walk Lord is perfect. So really we're not losing anything by playing Silvergill Adept if they have the board wipe here. This time it looks like the opponent did not put the card into the graveyard, or maybe they didn't. No, they did not. That was the second Serum Visions we saw there. So there's a Bolt on the Lord. Not much we can do about it. Opponent goes down to 7, goes down to 5. And they're going for Electrolyze on the Silvergill. So this might be sort of desperation play. Like, they might not have a lot of great cards in hand, but it's super dangerous because I could put in a 2-drop and then an Island Walk Lord and just win the game. And as it turns out, that's exactly what I've got in hand. So, yep, easy win. Activate Mutavault after bringing in the Lord, and game 1 to Merfolk. So even though we got crushed against Jeskai in the last round, we crushed them this round. And you can see why aggro tends to be favored against control decks. If we get a very quick start and get their life total down really low, even if they wipe our board, we can just activate Mutavault and close out the game. So look away if you don't want to see the match result. I'm going to click out of the window now. I am back with the second game. The opponent's going to be on the play this time. This is a solid opening. So they kept, and I kept as well. Tap Celestial Colonnade. Silvergill is a nice draw. Once again, I'm going to open up with Mutavault into Relic. And opponent plays Stony Silence. It was a little bit unfortunate because we're not going to get any value off this Relic, but the opponent's not going to get... I mean, like, I'm not going to draw a card off this Relic, but the opponent's not going to draw a card off this Stony Silence either. So them tapping out on turn 2 to play Stony Silence just means I get to resolve my spells next turn. It's really not a big deal. However, Stony Silence is one of a few reasons you might want to consider running some number of Echoing Truths against Jeskai control. It might not seem very good at first glance. I mean, what are you really going to bounce? Snapcaster, that's terrible. The opponent tries to bounce their own Snapcasters. But they have Detention Spheres, which can be a real blowout if they pass, and then on their end step, you bounce their Detention Sphere and get back, you know, whatever they were exiling. Bouncing Stony Silence can be huge if you've got a couple of AEther Vials on the table and you unexpectedly throw a bunch of creatures onto the board. Echoing Truth on Stony Silence, you can also just crack your relics, etc. You can bounce your own creatures with Echoing Truth to save them from a board wipe. You can bounce the opponent's Spreading Seas if they put them onto your Mutavaults. So I didn't bring Echoing Truth in this particular round. I'll go ahead and show you guys my sideboard strategy, which would have been the same as the previous round, which I think I forgot to show you guys. So I ended up taking out all 4 Spreading Seas and 3 Harbingers. I brought in 2 Dispels, 2 Negates, and let's think for a second here. Oh, 3 Relics, right? So 4 Counterspells and 3 Relics. And took out 3 Harbingers, which are pretty poor. They don't have creatures that we want to bounce. Celestial Colonnade has Vigilance, so it's really hard to tap that guy. And Spreading Sea is just typically fairly poor in the matchup since they give us access to Island Walk already. 7 in, 7 out. The opponent taps out on their turn 2 for Stony Silence and just passes back to us. AEther Vial pretty poor since we can't activate it. So showing you guys my sideboard strategy there, you see I didn't bring in any Echoing Truths, but I think in the future, and in the past actually, I've brought in 1 Echoing Truth, and I think I'll probably continue to do that. You probably don't want both Echoing Truths. It's just not live all the time, but running a singleton can be pretty good. Since the opponent's tapped out, I want to cast this Silvergill Adept and try to get some value. I revealed, I believe, Reejerey, since that's the most likely card that I'm going to play next. For the turn, I drew a land, which, off the Silvergill, I drew a land, which is pretty nice. The opponent's continuing to tap out, so just Electrolyze on the main phase, getting rid of Silvergill and hitting me in the face. So, I think it's time to play Kira here, with the opponent's shields down. Alright, there is another white source, but it's tapped. I do enjoy seeing more counter magic. That's very nice. So I'm just going to chip in with Kira here. And I can follow up with a number of options, the best of which seems to be casting Silvergill Adept with counter magic back up. So just like last turn, reveal the Reejerey again. And the opponent had no answer. We drew a Mutavault, which is wonderful in this matchup. Flooded Strand and... Okay, Supreme Verdict is reasonable here because it deals with Kira, which is otherwise requiring 2-for-1. But we do have 2 Mutavaults that we can start attacking with, or a number of other nice options. So I chose to go with Reejerey here because I drew another one, and these guys just open up a lot of options with tapping stuff, untapping stuff. Lightning Helix, I'm going to try to Dispel. That card is a really high value, so if we can counter it, it's going to be pretty good. And then they'll follow up with Search for Azcanta. So it's pretty great that we got to counter that Lightning Helix. It prevented them from gaining life and will give us some value off of this Reejerey. Let's go ahead and activate our Mutavault and just crack in for 8 here. If the opponent could have killed Reejerey on their turn, they probably would have since they remain phasing the Lightning Helix. And this is a 2-turn clock as it stands. No real reason to commit more creatures to the board. Okay. Opponent draws a card and passes. I'm going to play out... Well, I thought about playing out an Island Walk Lord. So the most obvious options the opponent has, just passing the turn, are Cryptic Command, trying to tap the team, against which Spell Pierce would be a perfect answer. Another option is something like a Snapcaster into a Lightning Helix. Both of those options require the opponent to tap their mana pretty low. So if I go after Lord of Atlantis here, it's going to give me Island Walk, for potentially lethal. And if they do go for either of those two options, I've got the Spell Pierce up. So, actually, you know what? It wouldn't be lethal because I'm only going to be able to attack with one Mutavault, since I'm going to want to leave Spell Pierce up. Or actually, I'm going to need to cast Spell Pierce if the opponent does have one of these answers. So let's activate one Mutavault and try to get in for 7 here. It's going to take the opponent off of this Flooded Strand, actually, if they take this damage. So here's a Snapcaster Mage. As I mentioned, Lightning Helix, great value. So they go for it, and Spell Pierce is going to get to do its job. If they have no more answers, they're going to take 7. And even a board wipe is insufficient at this point since we've got 2 Mutavaults. So things looking really good for us after that Spell Pierce. Opponent's probably going to look at the card from Azcanta, and they put a Detention Sphere on the bottom of the deck, just knowing that it's probably not good enough. And they just conceded. So once again, as in Game 1, you can see that we can present sort of an overwhelming clock. Mutavault does an excellent job, Cavern of Souls does an excellent job, and all of these lords obviously do an excellent job. The opponent answered my Relic of Progenitus, and I wasn't able to use this AEther Vial, so he effectively killed 2 cards in my hand. But tapping out on turn 2 to play something like Stony Silence lowers their shields and lets us establish more of a board presence. So even though it had an effect, it's sort of debatable whether it's worth it for them to bring this in against us. As I mentioned earlier, bringing in Echoing Truth can be decent. You can even bounce Search for Azcanta if there's nothing else to do, just to keep them off of that value for a turn. Bounce a Jace who's about to ultimate. There's some good options with Echoing Truth, so I think bringing in a Singleton is a decent idea. So thanks for watching, guys. I'm currently 3-1 in this Modern Friendly League. Leave any comments or questions you might have. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so, and check out my Patreon page if you haven't already. And tune in for the next video where I'll be back with the 5th and final round of this league. Thanks, guys. Bye.